Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of Maconomics. I'm your host, Ross Mac, and I'm here to try to help you get to the bag. We got a new caller calling. Talk to me what you got.
Yo, Ross Mac, I need your help. I was just at a dinner party, and these people were talking about liquidating assets, and bruh, the only asset I can liquidate is like a dead stock pair of sneakers and like my PS5. I need help. What should I do about retirement? Where do I even start?
Great question, man, because everybody in the world, in my opinion, should start preparing for retirement as soon as yesterday. In other words, ASAP, because 64% of Americans ain't prepared for retirement. In other words, without proper planning, man, those same 64% of Americans will retire broke or either have to work until the lights turn off. The earlier you start, the better, because it's never too late to start preparing. And the sooner you start, right, the better chance you're gonna have when it comes to that nest egg actually having enough money for you to be comfortable when you actually retire. When it comes to setting up your retirement accounts, the most common one that we might have heard of is the 401k plan, which may be provided by the company that you might work for. In some cases, your employer may match your contributions. If this is the case, I truly recommend taking advantage of it because it's essentially free bands, right? A match is where your employer matches you dollar for dollar up to a certain threshold. In this case, these contributions are gonna be taken out of your check pre-tax, and that money is gonna be invested and it's gonna grow tax deferred. Now, another option to consider is a Roth IRA, which stands for Individual Retirement Account. Individuals can set up a Roth IRA themselves at a typical brokerage account, right? Whether it's E-Trade, Fidelity, Vanguard, etc. Here, the contributions that you're gonna make to your Roth are already taxed. So when these contributions grow, these gains are actually gonna be tax-free. Now, for both of these type of retirement accounts, you're gonna be able to take out your money at the 59.5 mark. When it comes to actually selecting the investments that are gonna go into your retirement account, you wanna focus on well-diversified investments, right? And the reason I say well-diversified is because you wanna have the ability to own assets that may offset poor performing assets, right? Think of it like this, right? If your retirement account only owned airline stocks, in March of 2020, right after COVID happened, well, the reality is your portfolio would have been down, 50 to 70%, if not more, right? Cruise lines, etc., right? The idea is that you want to have something that's more diversified, whether it's, different sectors that you're going to own, or as well as different assets, right? Different instruments, bonds, as well as equities, right? So if you have a 401k plan, I recommend selecting the mutual funds that have a strong track record, right? You want to look at them and say, okay, this fund has been around for a while, but more importantly, you have the ability to see like, okay, they're probably going to be able to stomach any market downturn, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be a long-term investor. So what happened over 1 year, 2 years isn't going to be that horrible. You want to look at this and see, do you believe they could perform well over 20-year span, right? And the same idea is what happens when you're looking at a Roth IRA, but instead you're going to be looking more so kind of at some index funds, right? So at the end of the day, with your Roth IRA, you have a little more freedom, right? You have the ability to pick any fund that you want to put in there, whether it's an index fund or a mutual fund. The one thing that I want to say is kind of utilize the same exact rationale, right? You want to look at something that has a good track record, right? I would have you actually start out with index funds that's either going to be pegged to the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, because at the end of the day, over the long course of period, these index funds have performed pretty well, right? And that's what your retirement account is for. You want to look at this and say, okay, 10 years, 20, 30 years down the line when I retire, I want to have a lot of money there, right? So remember, the best thing to do is make sure you're investing monthly. That way you can really take advantage of the compounded interest. But man, great question, man. I hope that helps. Next caller, talk to me what you got. Now, while you're working hard for the money right now, just think about how smooth retirement is going to be. Whether your goal is to give back to the community, spoil your grandkids, or just sit on the beach somewhere, you got a good neighbor that can help make your dreams a reality. State Farm is here to help prepare for whatever is next. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.